And we are back with a Brian's Out Again edition of the Doing All Right podcast, man. But the work don't stop. We holding it down on this lovely Friday. Appreciate y'all for tapping in with us. Give me a hug and all that. The teacher's gone, and when the teacher's gone, the sub get to have a little fun. You feel me? This is a Joe Hoyt episode of the Doing All Right podcast, man. Joe J. Hoyt on Twitter from Dallas Morning News, man, holding it down for us. A rising star. Joe, what's happening, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. Thanks for those kind words, Voch. Appreciate it, dude.
Joe, I love the idea. You know, when I was coming up in this old YouTube world, man, and, you know, I'm just content creator. People don't like content creator is a slur nowadays, you know what I'm saying? But it's like there's a young group of, like, media people that be showing love to the content cast, man. You was one of the first media casts to show a lot of love to a content cast, man. So, you know, we just going to rise in this little thing together, and I'm glad you're on my side of this thing, man. So appreciate you first and foremost, man. And you just blowing up out here, tearing it down, kicking ass, Joe. So shouts out to you, sir.
Yeah, trying to, man. But hey, I think real work recognizes real work. And Voch, one thing I know about you, man, you grind, you put in the work. You know, the content creator is a slur for sure, but I call you a ball knower because you know ball. Okay, so that's what I say about you, Voch.
Joe said, "Indeed, it is a slur. You're not wrong." All right, man. Yo, Joe, help me out, man. I need some help, bro. This is the time of year where we just get attacked a lot. You know what I mean? You know, we cover the Cowboys, so you know these fans of Texas colleges they tend to want to lean us in that direction a little bit. It just is what it is. I was prepared for the Jacob Rodriguez fan base to be as, you know, they are as they are. You know what I mean? I didn't expect them to be this way. I expected like other type of players, you know, position groups to have a fan base in this way, but I never would assume that a linebacker and his mustache and his Big 12 style of play, I didn't assume that he would be a guy with a fan base that would attack you if you say something nice but not nice enough about him. I like Jacob Rodriguez. He's he's a dude that'll go second round for me. I got a 3 on him, but when I say things like that, people think that I said that Jacob Rodriguez is hot ass garbage. Joe, can you talk me through some of the Jacob Rodriguez fandom? And what's your kind of vision of the player?
Yeah, no doubt. I think when it comes to Jacob Rodriguez, you kind of pointed out some things. There's so much image and aura to him, right? Whether it's the mustache, whether it's the cowboy hat, whether it's the fact that he's a Wichita Falls guy that started Texas Tech, and then he, you know, produces a lot of forced fumbles. He was a Heisman candidate. There's so much to like about him just from a, you know, if you're just scratching the surface look at him, it's easy to love him, right? And I'll be honest, I think the Cowboys do like him a lot. And I think when it comes to Jacob Rodriguez, the ability to generate turnovers, that's something that if you ask Brian Schottenheimer what irks him the most from last year, I think that is something that still kind of keeps him up at night, is the fact that they had a -9 turnover ratio. I think that's something they want to fix. And I think Jacob Rodriguez, with his calculated peanut punch, he's really, really good at it. I think that's something that intrigues people. But to your point, I think if you look at the overall player, you know, I mean, you think production, you think good size, you think athleticism, but also there's some kind of, you know, boomer bust mentality stuff on film where, hey, I'm trying to make this play, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't, and it could be sometimes a big play in coverage that gets lapsed. I think those are things that are legitimate concerns. The one thing I'll kind of ask you, Voch, and kind of turn the conversation a little bit forward. Yeah, you say second and third round, and I kind of agree with you in terms of an evaluation, right? Yeah. But also, this draft is weird, man. Like, really weird, to a point where I think guys that might be ranked from 20 to 60, you could almost interchange a lot of them, because I think there's going to be a ton of second round grades, not a lot of first round grades. And I'm so curious to see how that plays out.
So just to answer your question here, because I got my board pretty organized, y'all can go find it on Twitter. Jacob Rodriguez is my 57th overall player. So if we draft him, he'll be at the back end of the second round. Cowboys ain't got one of them picks. You feel me? So he is a guy that if the Cowboys be like, hey, we like him, we just going to reach a little bit to go take him, that's a little high for me if they talking about 20 overall. There are people online that'll take Rodriguez at 20 overall. I'm not one of them people necessarily. But if he falls to the to 92 or whatever, like, hey, man, we could have a party if you get Rodriguez at 92. And I'm of the belief that, dog, you could be a good player and be drafted in the third round. It's okay. It's cool. I just don't think that he'll fall there. You are correct. I did something fun on my Twitter. I'm gonna make a video about it. You can look at it later. But I posted a picture of the 2021 draft. right? Just kind of who those guys are. And I was like, man, take the first round dudes in this class and kind of put them in that class. And where would you put them, right? This is like Rashawn Slater going 13. And you know what I mean? All these other kind of guys. Like you take Christian Darrisaw that went 16 that year. How much better is he than kind of these guys? I think it's interesting. So to your point of this draft being weird and difficult to kind of get a hold on, you're not wrong. But I think at the end of the day, we shouldn't put the player versus the draft slot. I put the player versus their peers. You feel me? So it's like, yeah, I like Rodriguez, but I just happen to like Reese, Styles, Allen, Golday, Trotter, and Hill a little bit more. And then there's Rodriguez that I like a lot.
That's fair. I kind of like your rankings. I think Golday is someone that's interesting, that I think a lot of people are high on. And then Anthony Hill, to me, it's one of those situations, Voch. I just don't understand why we've dropped him. From an external standpoint. I know he's a little bit lower on your rankings than perhaps, maybe mine in terms of, and I don't have a true stack.
Sure.
That's why I haven't been on the stack. I don't got a true stack, right? But I think Anthony Hill's a guy that I just think is a fantastic athlete, has made plays. A Texas kid. Like, part of me, I don't see why we're dropping him so much in the rankings. But who knows? We'll see where he ends up too.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you this: you said you think the Cowboys do like Rodriguez. And let me just look the camera in the face real. Hey, y'all, we don't know nothing, man. We ain't talking to nobody. We have no idea what the Cowboys going to do. We'll find out when y'all find out. Speculation though, Joe. Speculation though, pardon me. What does a Cowboy linebacker look like now? We kind of hear rumors from our peers and our cohorts, and we hear about the smart player that they like, and Christian Parker say, hey man, we ain't at the YMCA, man. We need some athletes too. And this linebacker class, a lot of these dudes kind of fit in the archetype, you know what I mean? To where they may be good at one thing, but they may not be good at something else. Somebody may be fantastic measurably, but they don't process well. The good processing dudes may be shorter. Torian York 5'10", but he can cover his ass off. You feel me?
Love me Torian York.
For sure. So if you could assume what Christian Parker kind of values in a linebacker and kind of rank them, and then just kind of tell me about these guys and who is a Cowboy linebacker? Who wouldn't make the cut this year? Is C.J. Allen too short? Does Jacob Rodriguez does he not run fast enough on film? Does Sonny not thump linebackers enough? Well, Tell me about these guys, please.
First off, Voch, I'm going to hijack something a little quick because I want to use the platform to get a message out. Okay, and this is going to. I'm an objective journalist, but it's going to come across as bias. I'm a 5'8.5", 5'8" kind of guy. If you're using halves, that you're a short king, right? Well, I have this stance. I think every NFL defense needs at least one short king. I think every NFL defense needs someone with a chip on their shoulder who's short that can go and play. I think Torian York is one of them. I think D'Angelo Pons is one of them. I think Avion Terrell is one of them. Long story short, if you're the Cowboys, go hunt a short king in this draft. That's my stance here in 2026. But to answer your question about linebackers, I'll say this too about Jacob Rodriguez. We don't know for sure, and I think they do so much due diligence on so many players. Like, they're at so many pro days, they're at so many dinners that it's easy to be like, oh, hey, they had a meeting with this guy at the combine. They had a meeting with this guy at the pro day. Clearly, they're going to draft him. And I think we don't really know until we know, to your point. I'll say this, though. Watching the way they interacted with Jacob Rodriguez at pro day when I was there in Lubbock, that was a little bit different. Some of the things that were being said, some of the conversations, some of just the true interactions, it felt a little bit different. So just something to kind of keep in mind. But when it comes to the linebacker that I think that they truly want, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to someone who's smart, someone who's heady, someone that can get people organized. One of their biggest bugaboos last year, truly, was the fact that they just had alignment issues. You had Kenneth Murray, who you thought was going to be your will, running Mike and having to organize people from the middle to the front line of their defense. And that didn't work, right? I think that they want someone who can come in and kind of be a commander in terms of that part of their defense. The one thing that I didn't really know going into this draft process was whether or not they would need someone that was similar to Marvion Overshown or someone that had to complement him and kind of be more of a contrasting style, more of a CJ Allen, right? Yeah. The vibe I've gotten is they don't need someone to be a true Mike, completely different. I think that they want someone that's more, can get people aligned and is athletic. That's why I don't think Anthony Hill would be like redundant for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So they'll be comfortable with two Will style linebackers, you know what I'm saying? Because they just gonna make Quentin Williams whoop folk up front, and they're just gonna kind of run free anyway. Okay, cool, that's fair. I've been really trying to figure it out, man. Because what the Cowboys will do is that they'll give you a lot of information, then like misdirect you, and at the end of the day, like Golday is a guy that they like the most out of everybody. He's number one on their board. I'm like, oh, I didn't see that one coming. Like we're talking about Hill and all these guys there. It's interesting that you said, you know, that you know every good team deserves a short king. I was actually on the mindset of every team deserves an angry black guy. So maybe we just want a reflection of ourselves in these teams, whatever. I was looking at a David Bailey video. You know, he got the little stuff coming out about the photographer and all that. And I was like, hey man, we need that kind of crazy here though. We need people like that. That's kind of a little foolish to come and win us a championship. And with all this trade up talk, I'm gonna ask you about a lot of trades there, Joe. Mm-hmm. Of course, we would love David Bailey on this team, man. I don't want to ask you low-hanging fruit. You know what I mean? This ain't ESPN. But based on what you feel, what you've heard, who you've been talking to, you talk to me about the Cowboys and their ideas of trading up. I hate doing the exercise myself because I think it's a way out of like bailing out of a draft conversation if, you know, things get difficult or whatever. But tell me the feel that you're getting about the Cowboys' desire to trade up.
Yeah, I think if you look at kind of what they've said, and it's so funny. You obviously you've been covering the Cowboys for a while. I've been covering the Cowboys for a while now too. Like, there's a difference between what they said and parsing through what they mean, right? Okay. And I think one thing that they've meant this offseason that's been a little bit, you know, you can back it up by a little bit of what their actions have shown. I think they want a young edge rusher. I think they really do want a young edge rusher, right? And I think that that's why there's this openness to trading up in terms of getting maybe a pass rusher that slips. That's why you do your due diligence on David Bailey, on Arvell Reese, on Ruben Bain, guys like that. Because if they're there and there's a trade partner to be had, then and you feel comfortable making the trade, then I think that that's something they could end up doing. I think that's where, you know, the kind of the rub is, right? Where it's like, how comfortable are they giving up things beyond maybe their comfort zone to go up and get some of these guys, right? We saw it in free agency. They set a line with Max Crosby. They offered, you know, a first and a second rounder. They offered a good deal for him, right? And they weren't going to go farther than that. When it came to guys like Devin Lloyd and even, you know, Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, I know they wanted to play together, right, in Vegas, but like money talks. So if you really, really wanted these guys, you could go beyond your comfort zone. They weren't ultimately willing to do that. The thing I keep coming back to, Voch, I think they do want to trade up. And I think whether it's for a pass rusher or to secure a guy like Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, or Monster Delane, I think there's a lot of interest there, right? How interested are they, though, compared to their comfort zone? That's something I keep coming back to. And honestly, it's a big reason why I think they ultimately don't move up.
Yeah, I try not to be mean on socials, but I think that the Cowboys are more likely to send a 3 to move up to 9 than to send a couple of 1s and some other shit to move up to 3. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So when people talk about that, man, I think the Cowboys really want to keep as many 1s as they possibly can. So when I hear about the super aggressive stuff, I just don't buy into it that much. If they do move, it might be a little move, like a couple of spots, the Saints or something, the Chiefs or something like that.
Yeah, and we've already talked about this is a weird draft, right? So like, I mean, and it's so funny because I think every single year we go through this draft process and we're like, okay, this guy is a certified top 5 pick. He'll never, ever leave the top 5. All of a sudden he's available at 9, right? And you're like, oh, how did that happen, right? How did Monroe Freeling and Carnell Tate both go in the top 6, pushing some of these guys back, right? Things like that happen every year. And I think that's one thing that they're preparing for. That's why to your point, 12 and 92 to move up to 10 or 9 makes, in my opinion, the most sense. Or you have Cleveland, who kind of seems desperate, that's willing to move back from 6 to kind of get more stuff. And maybe you could do something there that would still fall in your comfort zone. Those are truly kind of the only places I see the Cowboys moving up to go get someone.
Joe, I don't know much about you. I know you a little bit, but I don't know much about you, Joe. You know what I mean? I don't know if you ever shot dice in the bathroom with some gangsters before. I don't know. But I make that analogy all the time because it's a certain feel that comes from shooting dice in a dirty bathroom surrounded by gangsters. It's a different gamble than playing craps at the, you know what I mean, the WinStar or whatever. You know what I mean? So we talk about this trading up stuff, right? But we're also hearing reports about these players and what the league kind of thinks about them. What if there's a gamble? If you was a GM, if your last name was Jones, Joe J. Jones, fire, Triple J. would you at least gamble on the hope or the thought or the idea, and hope ain't a good policy, but would you at least gamble on the idea that Downs or Bain could just fall to you at 12 and you just keep your damn picks?
No, that's mine. As we get close to the draft watch, that's kind of my big stance. I would, if you like a guy, and the thing is, they want someone with instant impact capabilities, right? They want Caleb Downs, who is the smartest player probably in the draft, to come in and just be, a foundational piece in Christian Parker's secondary for years to come. They would love Sonny Styles to be someone that is next to Marvion Overshown. And next thing you know, you have two sideline to sideline linebackers that can chase things after Quinnen Williams blows things up, right? Mm-hmm. They would love Ruben Bain or something like that. Or David Bailey to be an edge rusher that is so much cheaper than what you had to pay for Micah Parsons, but also is someone that could be an edge rush threat for you that helps those guys in the middle as well. They would love those things. And in my opinion, if you love those things so much, go up and get one. Don't gamble, because I did a mock draft the other day, a 7-round mock for the Cowboys. And my whole premise was, let's just say that they stay at 12, right? And they, hey, we all expect Caleb Downs maybe to fall, which I just don't see happening. They expect something like that to fall, right? But what happens if they don't? What happens if all these offensive guys they think they're going to happen in the top 11 don't happen? And next thing you know, the draft board was pretty wiped. I had them taking Akeem Mesidor at 12, right? Yeah. And while I think Akeem Mesidor is going to be a really good player, and I think I like him more than some others, taking him at 12 is a lot. That's rich. But that is your break glass in case of emergency situation, I think, if Delane, Downs, Styles, Bailey, Reese, all these guys are gone. So I think that's something that I would not want to face that reality if I'm the Cowboys. But if they do stay there, I think you're facing the possibility of seeing that reality.
I mean, but it'll be a horrible day. We'll all be cussing each other out if we trade up to 6, get Sonny Styles, and then we get to 12 and Bain and damn Downs is there. Like, we'd be collectively upset, right?
I don't live with regret, though. You know what I mean? Like, in my opinion, like,
you never shot dice in the dirty bathroom, Joe. I got you. Go ahead.
No, I haven't. The only dice I shot was on a bus with a bunch of Catholic school kids coming back from. So it's a little bit less risky right there. So
I feel
a little less risky.
To your point about Mesidor, though, and I think this is just the game. I don't think we could be hurt at the amount of player that we get back if we have to draft. Like, if you get wiped out of the Big Six or whatever, it just is what it is. Like, I don't want us as Cowboy fans to be pretending like we're the 3rd overall pick. Dog, we are 12. We won too many games to just assume that anything good should just be happening to us. I like Mesidor too, though. I think if me and you high on Mesidor, then cool. I got Mesidor as like my 13th guy on my board, so he's right there for me. But to your point, I would rather one of the Big Six guys. But Joe, man, I'm just trying to pick your brain a little bit. You ain't gotta answer this question if you don't want to. How you feel about an offensive player at 12? If you get wiped out from the Big Six, and yeah, Mesidor might be there, I feel you, right? But what if you got like a high-ass grade on Jeremiah Love or like Francis Mauigoa, team suck at drafting, and one of those guys are there for you? Would you consider drafting offense?
Not at 12, personally.
Oh.
I would at 20. If hypothetically, if you got someone already an instant impact guy on defense, you're there at 20, and next thing you know, one of the receivers maybe fell, and you're like, you know what, let's just kind of go ham. Hey, if Jeremiah Love for some reason fell, who knows, right? That seems more comfortable for me. I think at 12, you got to get an instant impact defensive guy. And in terms of like offensive linemen, I know that's kind of a popular discussion.
No, it ain't. People hate offensive line.
Dude, I think it's a popular discussion because people don't want to have that potential, but also you drafted Tyler Guyton in the 1st round to be your future left tackle, and that's just been inconsistent, right? Yeah. I think they already have a plan on offensive line, and I don't think it includes a top tier rookie, right? Because I think they truly want to see Tyler Guyton and Nate Thomas go, at it at left tackle and hope that one of them emerges as a guy that could be your starting, consistent, known quantity there, right? If that doesn't happen, I think they're totally comfortable with moving Tyler Smith to left tackle and putting TJ Bass in the starting lineup, and using Tyler Guyton and Nate Thomas as swing tackles behind Terrence Steele and Tyler Smith. Like, I think that's the reason why you went out and gave a 2nd-round tender to TJ Bass. That's the reason why you've not closed the door on Tyler Smith moving to left tackle, despite his wishes probably not to. So I think that's where I just don't see a first round offensive lineman in this year's class. I'm putting my Clarence Hill stamp though there that they won't draft a guard, and then they drafted Tyler Booker last year. So who knows, right?
Yeah. Even as an Oregon guy, what about your tight end there, Kenyon, Sadiq? I've been seeing him pop up every now and then. I personally wouldn't do it. I think that's incredibly high for tight end and what you need. And, the player also always kind of ties them together. I just don't think that he's an option at 12. But I've been seeing some mock drafts from national dudes. And when national dudes start talking, it ain't necessarily what they think is real, like what they heard. So what you think about that?
I don't think that he'll go to the Cowboys, but I do think the Cowboys will draft a tight end at some point in this draft. And I think that they want to add a little bit more insurance there. I think obviously Schoonmaker going into a contract year. I think that means that there's an opening for competition. Lunda Wells has been out at multiple different pro days looking at tight ends. He was at Baylor, he was at Ohio State. He's done his due diligence as well. I would not be surprised to see him take a tight end at some point in this draft. I'll tell you what about Kenyon Sadiq though. Like, it's kind of one of those guys where, like, I watched every single Oregon snap last year, being an Oregon alum. And it's so funny sometimes, like, the things that when you watch a guy every snap versus like what kind of scouts say about him, or it's like, the run blocking, I'm not so sure. I'm like, really? Like, that was a guy that, like, a little bit smaller, but my God, in terms of the speed and explosiveness, he's one of those guys that I think is a force guy. It's a mass times acceleration kind of equation when it comes to his force. He might not be the biggest mass, but man, you add that acceleration to him. This is a guy that's kind of a heat-seeking missile out there, and he did everything Oregon wanted him to do and everything Oregon needed him to do last year. He's a stud. I think if you tell me he goes 9 to Kansas City, I wouldn't be surprised.
That's actually fascinating, Joe. I've had this mindset with Cowboys and their picks and who I think that they should be drafting. Like, I would, if my last name was Jones, I would only go offense at 12 overall, because I think when you're drafting at 12, you're kind of at the mercy of the board and what kind of falls to you. I think when you get to 20 and 92 and 114, you can pick who the hell you want because the board is wide open, so you can go best defender here, best defender there, especially with defense being an emergency. You're not wrong. We saw Clayton Adams in Kentucky, and he was talking to Jalen Farmer, the guard, and all that. And you did mention Lunda Wells, how he's kind of he really likes Trigg and all this kind of stuff, right? And you said that you could see the Cowboys drafting tight end. I'm just asking Joe Hoyt. We don't know nothing. We don't talk to nobody. We just do media and content. If you had to pick around, if you had to assume around that the Cowboys. And just hear what I'm saying. The Cowboys stopped taking defense as seriously, right? Like, we're opening the door of drafting something but defense, including tight end. What round would that assume? Well, what round would you assume that'll be?
That's a great question. I think 5th round.
Thank you.
I think at that point, you've gone, first round, 3rd round, 4th round. You've got 4 defensive guys. Yeah. You've filled needs. You've got guys that have the potential to be instant impact guys. We can talk a little bit more about 92 and 112. Like, I still think that there are some guys that could come in and make a difference day one in those rounds on the defensive perspective. And then on offense, I think you could start taking a look at some guys that, that might be a little bit, hey, down the road, or depth pieces. Like, one thing with tight end, right? Like, we talked about Schoonmaker is going to be a free agent after this season, right? And then I think that they just could use some depth in general. Like, they love Brevin Spanford, but I think that would be helpful in general moving forward. And I think at receiver, you lost Jalen Tolbert. And while obviously Jalen Tolbert, wasn't, the apple of everyone's eyes, right? He was a 4th or 5th receiver on most days for you. And I think you kind of need someone there to step up, right? So I wouldn't be surprised in round 5 if you saw an offensive guy come off the board.
I'm going to ask you about some of your favorite guys in a second per round, but I do want to ask you. I just want to go back to defense real fast before we get back into this. On a scale of 1 to 10, not Joe, but what they think, because what the Cowboys be thinking is totally different than what we think, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable do you think the Cowboys are with their pass rush room? If you ask fans or whatever, we be like, hey man, go send that pick and go get Grenard or something. Like, hey, we need another guy. Hey, are we still out on Clowney type shit? And the Cowboys could be like, we got Donovan and then Rashawn Gary. We about to draft a guy. That's James Houston. We straight. Scale of 1 to 10. How you think the Cowboys feel about their pass rush room?
I mean, can I say 5? I think that they're fine with it, right? Like, I think that they like Donovan Ezeraku. I genuinely think they like James Houston, by the way. But I do think that they've made it very clear they want to add to that room. And I think they want to use a high pick to do so. So that's why I think you see the trade up conversations about guys like David Bailey, Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain. I think that they'd be much happier if they could add someone there, but I also think that they're confident that they will add someone there. So like 5 or 6, I think that's kind of where I'd keep it right now. They're cool with Rashawn Gary because they're not going to revisit the Max Crosby thing, at least right now, because they pivoted to Rashawn Gary, so they're cool there. So I think that they're okay with where they're at, but obviously I think that they want something more. And one thing I'll say too, when they traded Micah Parsons, they made a fundamental continental shift in terms of how they want to operate this defense, right? They wanted to invest more in the interior. So I think the fact that they haven't invested a ton on the edge is kind of more aligned with their mode of thinking and their kind of mode of operation moving forward.
I tell you what, Joe, I got one more question before we get into these players, just like Cowboy team build and stuff like that. When we first started, doing draft film or whatever, we watched a bunch of other spots. We watched linebackers, corner, safety, edges. I was like, hey man, there's no way that they need a D tackle. That's the best room we got in the whole damn building. They ain't finna touch D tackle. I ain't even finna watch D tackle. A couple of weeks happened. Now we got to watch a shit ton of D tackles last season. Joe, do you think that D tackle is an option for the Cowboys late in the draft somewhere?
Yeah, for sure. And it's so funny. I started laughing because I had the literal same response, Voch. I literally I was like, Albert Regis, who cares? Big Citrus down at Iowa State, no worries.
We got to watch these dudes now.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, dude, now, what kind of defensive tackle makes sense in Christian Parker's system if Osa and Solomon Thomas don't? That's kind of the thought process you got to have too. And so yeah, that's definitely on the table. I think round 5, round 4, more of a depth piece kind of guy in the interior. That feels more comfortable for me than like a Peter Woods super high.
Yeah, fair enough. And Joe, we on the same page about when to pick defense and when not to. So shouts out to you for being right. I think pick number 92 and 114 are just as important as pick 20. Because for the dudes that's going to be on the board at pick 92 and 114, those are the exact type of dudes you need on this damn team. Just me looking at my board and how it's kind of stacked up or whatever. It's a lot of corners in there, a lot of linebackers in there, a ton of edges. It's interesting. I saw this clip from an interview. PJ Locke was talking about something. Everybody go watch Brandon Laurie. Brandon Laurie on Twitter does a really good job of curating Cowboys clips. I didn't know that PJ Locke did some interview with 2 miscellaneous characters. I never would have known that existed if Brandon Laurie didn't post a clip. So y'all please go follow Brandon Laurie. But PJ was like, yeah, I was comfortable at Denver. And I was like the backup, the third guy. But I was like, I'm coming to Dallas because I make more money and I get to start. And I say, what? I said, who told you that? You know what I mean? So now I'm listening to PJ Locke kind of tell us that a part of his package and why he should come here is that we going to give you, PJ Locke, an opportunity to start. I just could have sworn I could have swore that PJ Locke was about to be like a rotational cat that would kind of be a bridge dude for like some safety that you about to draft. So before I get into your favorite guys, are the Cowboys done looking at safety? Assuming that dude's name is not named Caleb Downs or something like that, but is like PJ Locke stopping the Cowboys from looking at safety?
No, I mean he can't, right? That's not a dig at PJ because I think just from a health standpoint too, you just from a veteran standpoint, you can't just be like, okay, 100% guaranteed, we're sold, we're good there, no matter what. Voch, I struggle with this question because Caleb Downs, yeah, no doubt, for sure, right? Sure. The guy that I kind of struggle with is okay, well, where does an Emmanuel McNeil Warren fit into that scenario, right? Because I think he's almost redundant a little bit, right? And I know he can be a big nickel for you and that you could play him there and that's good. But also I think, are you going to use a first round pick on someone who is kind of just the big nickel? Yes, Nick and Warren showed you it's possible. Obviously he was a second round pick, but he showed you the value in that too. But I just don't know with what they have right now, if that's someone that fits there. So in terms of would they be done at safety? I think it would take a certain guy to be a potential starter. Yeah. One of my favorites at 112 we'll talk about is someone who I think could eventually replace Malik Hooker and be a guy that you could count on in case Malik Hooker got hurt. That's kind of where I think more outside of Caleb Downs, the safety room goes. But a guy like Emmanuel McNeil Warren is someone that kind of gives me a little bit of pause with that thinking, right?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, and normally, Joe, I hate safety. Like, I'm O-line guy. I love wide receivers. I'm D-line.
See, I'm a safety guy, dude. I'm a safety.
Safeties you just got to sit around and tap your watch like, when is something gonna happen? Watching these goofy ass safeties. But this class in particular, it's been the most fun class to watch because they all different. Like, they all got different jobs or whatever. To your point about McNeil Warren, I got him fourth on my board. I got him behind Downs, Thieneman, and Wheatley from Penn State. And I'm with you. I don't really see McNeil Warren as a guy that's going to be like, oh, I could play one high the whole game. You know what I'm saying? Or I go play linebacker sometimes and do some fun little stuff. Like, I think he's a cool, strong safety that's athletic, that makes some plays and come up and tackle for you here or there. But I don't really see McNeil Warren as like going crazy like I see some of these other guys. So you are correct in that way. I'm just trying to figure out, because the Cowboys, I feel like they're prioritizing safety more than they ever have, which is strange for me, which is probably why I don't like safety, because as a Cowboy fan my whole life, they ass don't like safety neither. But like a Bud Clark, like a Halsey, like a Kyle Lewis, like dudes
you
like
got
that.
You got my guy. You named my guy. Bud Clark.
Halsey?
Bud Clark.
Bud Clark is nice. Bud Clark is nice. Yeah, for sure.
You named my guy.
For sure. Let me ask you this then, Joe. Let's get into it. We've been teased, but I keep coming up with other little shit and we just talking. We just going. 92, right? So we all kind of agree that we should be looking at defense, and you can include whatever. Give me some names at 92. Edges, linebackers, corner safety. Who you like there?
Well, you know, it's a great question, Voch, because like I think that you kind of laid it up perfectly, that this draft at all those spots kind of fits their needs, right? You can get an edge rusher at 12. You can get a corner at 12. You can get a safety at 12 if you want. You can get a linebacker at 12. If you wanted to go 20, you could get some of these guys there too. And at 92 and at 114, like all their needs fit super well at each of these spots. So I think that there are guys with potential instant impact capabilities at 92 at any of those needs, and at 112 at any of those needs. It obviously depends on, I think, what they would do with the first 12 and 20 to see what they would do at 92 and 114. But let's say they went edge rusher and they went edge rusher and corner at 12 and 20, right? So that means you got linebacker. You could use some more. You could use another safety too. Give me a guy like Trotter from Missouri, right? Like I think that's someone who I think would do well at 92, and then at 114 or 112. Why don't you get Bud Clark from TCU? And like I'll say this, I think I'm higher on Bud Clark than most, but I think it comes back to, what do the Cowboys want to prioritize moving forward at the next level? I think they want to prioritize instinctual kind of ability, someone who can play in the back end and make plays, and someone who generates turnovers. And one thing about Bud Clark, he has a nose for the ball, and also he makes plays. Like, I think maybe one of the things that people hate about safeties, I'm not trying to speak for you, Voch, sure, is that, hey, like a lot of these guys are in position but don't make plays. Bud Clark is someone that will make plays. That's why I think if you're talking about not only this year but eventually taking over from Lee Hooker, give me a guy like Bud Clark. If you want something more hard hitting, go take AJ Halsey. And I'll tell you what, like one of my favorite players growing up was Deshaun Golson, in terms of just being someone that just absolutely, hit hard and laid the wood. Halsey kind of fits in that category too. But the other guy that like I keep coming back to, they had him in for a 30 visit too. If you don't get that edge rusher at 12 and 20 that you might want, Romello Height is someone from a speed standpoint, and from just something you could add in terms of juice off the edge. That is someone who I think that would make a ton of sense in the third round.
I see, Joe. This kind of where we at with it. I'm liking everything you're saying, by the way, right? But it's like the dudes that, when people say, "Oh, they can go in the third round or something," right? I like him so much, I'll take him in the second. Like you was talking about,
for sure.
You was talking about Clark, right? I got a third round grade on him, but he's 54 on my board overall, right? So I'm definitely higher on Clark than some others. And Mello Height, you won't believe where he's at on my board, Joe. If you had to guess, where you think I got Mello Height at on my board, Joe?
Well, based on the way you led that in, because I love Romello Height, and maybe it's just because Texas Tech's defense was so good, and if you have that many guys and you have a Lee Hunter next to you and have a David Bailey at the edge, you can take more risks. I love Romello Height. I'm going to guess 45.
Mello is 15 on my board, Joe. Mello whooping ass out there, dog. He whooping ass out there. I don't care about him being my age. You know what I'm saying? I cut the film on. I cut the film on, dog. And Melo goes out. And for every time you say, damn, David Bailey beat the hell out this dude, like in that same film, you can see Melo chasing somebody around. You know what I mean? I always tell people, go watch Tech versus Utah. Right? So you can watch Fano versus Bailey over there. Fantastic matchup. But while you watching Fano Bailey, you see the quarterback running for his life because Melo's over there beating the shit out of Lomu. You know what I mean? So I think people kind of sleeping on Melo. Like
so I watched both, and again, I'm not a scout, right? And I'm not the guy who wants to make everything out of pro day, but knowing what I know about David Bailey and Romello Height and how much I like both of them. Watching those two back to back, because they did back to back drills at the pro day, you can make an argument that Romello Height looked more smooth, more athletic, like a little bit quicker. Like he looked good. I love Romello Height, and I think if that's someone that falls to 92, they should be jumping for joy. And honestly, go ahead and double dip if you really want it. I don't care at edge. Like, I'll say this though, we kind of keep talking about this. I can guarantee one thing. There's going to be a point when the Cowboys are on the clock at 92 where you're like, wait, that dude is still on the board? Like, I can guarantee that there's just going to be guys with second and third round grades that are more high than, 92 in terms of the big board that are there. And you're like, oh, wow, Cowboys have a chance to pick them. So it's just such a weird draft, honestly.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Hoyt, Dallas Morning News, Joe J. Hoyt on Twitter. Give him a follow. It's fantastic. Him and this new young class, this new guard of media cats, man. You know, I don't know what to call you because I ain't go to media schools. I don't know what your official name is, but Joe Hoyt is just a cold ass dude in the Cowboys media space, and y'all should all go follow him if you have not. Is there anything else that I should be telling people? Like you got some other little website we need to be looking at?
No, go check out DallasNews.com. I think one thing I'll kind of leave you with, and I'm just kind of curious to see. This is the last year of like the COVID players. Mm-hmm. This is the last year of some of these. I mean, now that NIL is a thing, you'll see guys that are 24, 25 years old in the draft. I'm so curious to see how teams look at it because I think a lot of people on the outside are looking at it as like a negative, right? Part of me thinks some teams might look at it as a positive, especially a team like the Cowboys who need someone who could step in immediately and play. Yeah. So that's just my last kind of thought as we're heading out here. But Voch, thanks for having me on, man. Always enjoy chopping it up with you, man, and always good to see you.
Appreciate you, bro. And I definitely agree. Some of my favorite players in this class are the older dudes because they've had time to refine their craft or whatever. I don't know. But, hey, man, like I said to you earlier, man, we're going to be having a bunch of guests on after the draft, man. And, hey, after the draft, you want to come sit right there, then cool. NFL is a Strange Lady shirts alive. Y'all go check those out. Go and get all the other merch and all the other clips channels and the other content that we're doing. It's all on crownglobalmedia.com. So check out Joe's work, check out our work on the website there, and we'll catch y'all Monday. We love y'all to pieces. Till next time, Crown.